Here are your hosts, Brian and Jamie.
Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. A bright and early Monday, back to another week of work and whatever the news brings us. My name is Jamie Martinson.
Good morning, I'm Brian Noonan. If you want to get involved throughout the show, you can. Why not? Everybody's welcome. 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. The weekends seem to go extremely fast, but things we have to catch up on. We have to find out if Parker took his mitt to the baseball game on Saturday because things were crazy. Did you have a good weekend, Jamie? Did you do anything exciting?
It was great. Well, I wouldn't say it was exciting. We ended up in Milwaukee a good portion of Saturday. I'll keep the story brief. The kid was on his first shift to the Brewers. He got a job working for the Brewers, running replay,
Nice.
running camera in stadium. First shift solo. He pulls out of his underground parking, gets halfway up the ramp, and realizes he has a flat tire. So he gets out of his car, gets his portable air pump. Now, yes, you would think that the kid is smart. This isn't actually for tires. This is so he can inflate kickballs for his rec kickball league. So he keeps it in his car. It's a little battery operated. You charge it. But it got him enough air in the flat tire to back off the ramp and get into the spot. And in the meantime, as he's doing all this, he calls me to tell me that his tire's flat while he's waiting for his Uber. So he gets his car back in his spot, takes his Uber over to the Brewers. Does not miss his first solo shift, by the way. Works, comes home, actually has to Uber to Racine because he also produces Amicus here on the Civic Media Network on Saturday mornings, where Corey and I then travel to Racine. We pick him up from his shift in Racine at Radio Park. We go back to Milwaukee. We eat some lunch. We go to put a spare tire on the vehicle, right? Because he has to work again throughout the weekend, still working for the Brewers. Turns out his spare is flat. So now we have no tire.
Wow.
That's a fun expense.
So then at the end of the day, we end up calling a mobile repair shop who literally only could inflate the dummy tire until we get a real tire. So we'll be handling that today. So we spent a good portion of our day running around dealing with tires and pumping things up and pumping things down. And it was a day. Let me tell you, it was a day. We were very excited to get home. We ended by watching Song Sung Blue and both passing out slightly thereafter.
Oh, man. Yikes.
What about you?
He's
Less
lucky you
exciting
were
than
around. I have one of those little pumps, by the way, and you can use them for car. They have different
Yes.
settings. You can use it
Yes.
for car tires. I've done it before.
His
Not
is
as good as
mostly-
the gas station one.
His is mostly just so he could pump up kickballs at the
Well,
rec
sure.
league.
You got to have priorities. You need a
Priorities are
reason.
important, Brian. Yes.
The dogs, with Debbie gone still, the dogs were getting me Saturday morning. They got me up at 6:30, and then would not go out. And it took me, they were whining to go out. And then I got up and they both rolled over on their bellies and would not go out. And they kept whining. And I was like, all right. So Sunday morning, 6:30 rolls around again and they start. And this time I walked out. And the minute he rolled over, I turned around, I went back into bed. I'm like, I'm not playing this game. So at 7:15, he started whining again. And 7:15, little coaxing, but he went out. So it's been dealing with the dogs. But I did watch, because Debbie was gone, I did watch more movies. I got to watch one of my favorites. I watched The Hustler again the other night.
Oh, that's a great movie.
And then I watched a couple of garbage movies, just Trap House on Netflix with Dave Bautista, and another DEA movie that I fell asleep through after.
Did you have a good adult beverage with it, though?
Well, during the Hustler, I had to have some JTS Brown.
Okay, that makes sense. Yes.
And then last night I did sit on the. I did some work around the house yesterday after I saw my mom. So I had my first cigar and cocktail of the deck season yesterday.
Love that.
Nice. Yes.
So obviously it didn't rain in your area because you got a little soggy in Madison if you would have tried to do
it started
a deck
raining
thing.
as I was wrapping things
Gotcha.
up.
Okay.
And then it's, yeah, we'll talk about the weather. It's going to be rough, especially in the northern parts of the state today. But the burning question, did our little leaguer take his mitt to the game? And did he catch a foul ball because he was sitting right by the dugout? Parker, for your birthday, you went yesterday to the game. which did not end well for the Brewers. Did it end on a happier note for you?
It ended on a happy note drinks-wise. It did not end on a happy note
all right.
ball-wise,
Oh.
unfortunately.
Oh, no.
Any even come your way?
Actually, yes, a lot, because I didn't realize, because we were in the outfield.
Okay.
Right
Oh,
above
okay.
the Brewers bullpen.
Oh,
A
nice.
bullpen.
So
I'm sorry. I
actually-
thought it was dugout.
The left fielders were throwing their warm-up balls at us
Yeah,
every
those aren't
inning.
as good as though a ball
no,
hit by a player,
no,
though,
they're
right?
not. They're not at all. But it's a chance. It's something, Jamie. You
It
have to
is.
do something.
It's-
So there was
yeah,
a chance.
you go
There
home
was
with a
chance.
ball.
Well, you didn't even get the wiffle ball set, you
Didn't
said.
even, I didn't even get the. There was a giveaway, and it was just for kids. They
Who
wouldn't let
was,
me have one.
who
I
was
don't know what
catching
that
all the
was
balls
about.
that were thrown into your section?
Roughly 24 10-year-olds.
You couldn't have dwarfed it and got on your knees and pretended you were a kid?
Now you see, I thought about going down a couple of rows and just being like, "Hey, come get two, give me a
I
ball."
think the beard would have
Hey,
given him
what the-
away, though, right?
That's what they told
Probably.
me. Yeah, that's what the mom said to me. I was like, "No, it's not going to work."
Your
Yeah.
mom took you to the game?
No. One of the other moms. She said,
Oh.
"No, you
Did you
Wait,
actually ask
wait,
her
what are
No,
the
I
other
didn't
moms?
do
Did you have
that. Why was she
chaperones?
No.
Did
Why
somebody
was she
drive?
involved?
Yeah, mom drive you to? Mom, will
Who's that
you
bearded
drive us
man
to the
trying to
game?
steal a ball from my kid? No.
Parker, you should have made a sign that said like, "It's
my
my
birthday."
birthday."
And they would have said,
a
"Oh,
good
look at that poor kid,
Poor
that
man.
poor guy
Look at
up
that
there.
idiot.
That guy's got some. That guy obviously needs a friend. We're gonna.
Oh man, I feel bad for that guy.
Wow.
Yeah, there was a guy next to us who I don't know who he was with. I'll be honest. He just kept trying to talk to us. I'm like, okay, dude.
Oh, so you took it
you-
astray.
I don't let
We,
it.
we didn't take him in.
Good. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Listen.
No.
I don't understand those people who would go if they go. I understand going places alone because why miss out
Yeah,
if you don't have
sure,
anybody to go
yeah.
with you? That I get, but then don't foist yourself on other crowds. You're a solo person at this event. If somebody talks to you, then you can feel free to jump in, or maybe after one attempt,
Yeah.
one comment, you get the
one.
vibe right away.
Yeah. You always get one. This guy had probably 3 tries an inning with us. Like,
That's when you turn around and just get right up in his face and go, "We don't want to talk to you."
Yeah, right. Parker's not doing that. Not a
the buddy of mine
chance.
closest to him might have, though.
After a couple of his fancy drinks.
His slushy drink.
Yeah, I
That's
had a
true.
big old, bat slushy. It made me
I don't
happy.
know if I've ever met somebody who bought one of those baseball bat drinks. So
Well, now you
congratulations,
have.
you're the
Now
first.
you have.
Now you have. And Brian, I said to my buddies, I'm bringing this glass home. And you know what I didn't do?
You didn't bring the glass home.
didn't bring
Did you
it?
leave it
Nope.
behind?
Nope. I left it behind because I completely forgot about it.
Oh,
Now,
no.
question:
Yes.
Is this
No,
like an actual glass or is
No,
it like
it
a
wasn't.
plastic?
It was a plastic thing, but it was a bat shape. It was kind of cool.
Let me
Got the
ask
Brewers
an
logo
everything.
on it, I'm guessing.
It had a Relief Pitchers logo on it.
I'm
yeah.
actually really sad because I would have expected you to drink your water every morning out of the bat.
Yeah.
Oh, how guys! Can you
That would've been
imagine?
so
I'm
cool.
just sipping on a cup this tall, like foot and a half,
Shaped like a
tall.
bat. That would have
Shaped like a
been an odd visual
Well, what
for
are
the
you gonna do?
stream.
I was gonna
baseball
say-
at the bottom of it.
Are you actually?
Wait,
Would you
wait, wait,
actually
wait.
have used it?
Hold on.
I want to go back to the
Frank,
visual.
Frank, let's go back to
Yeah.
Parker describing
Yeah.
this long cylindrical phallus with a sphere at the bottom and how he would be sucking through a straw out of the end of it every morning nonstop.
Yep.
I'm
you've
just
got
going to let
right,
that
Brian.
sit there, and we painted the
Marinate
picture.
for a
Let it
minute.
sit.
Yeah. So did you see the Yelich injury? Because that's big news right now.
I didn't realize that he got hurt, but I figured that he had been because he got pulled in like the 4th inning. So
Yikes.
I didn't see what did it to him, but I did notice that Gary Sanchez, I believe, pinch hit for him, which is not a good sign.
That's not good.
no.
That doesn't actually get you much.
Nah.
No offense to Sanchez.
Well, offense taken.
Yeah.
If you're Gary Sanchez and you hear that comment, you'd be offended.
He's not the fastest dude. I think he would admit it.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, Pat Murphy's not super. He doesn't have a good idea. It doesn't sound like it's going to be good. Let's put it like
no,
this.
I believe
for
the
Yelich.
quote I read was, "We're not expecting good news."
Yeah.
Oh.
That's That's not good for Yelich. And
No. Hey, at least it wasn't his back this time.
this is true.
Okay.
The bats for the Brewers have not been good the last few games anyway. What was this game number 5 that they dropped?
5 in a row they've lost now, yeah.
Ooh.
Swept by the Nats.
If it
Yikes.
makes you feel better, they
Yeah.
haven't been great for really anybody. I mean, the NL Central
early.
Division right now, the Pittsburgh Pirates are in first.
Yeah.
The Reds are in second. The Cardinals are in third.
How
Then
your
the
Cubs doing?
Brewers, and then the Cubs.
Oh, but you're only a game behind the Brewers. So,
Correct.
yeah. Okay.
It's close.
There's-
All that to
there's a lot
say,
of
it's
baseball left.
freaking April.
It is
Yeah.
April.
Everybody
Yeah,
needs to relax.
Yeah.
If I'm a
Relax.
Brewers fan and I'm going through a 5-game skid, this is when I want it.
Yeah.
It's
That's a
when
good
you're
point.
coming out of the All-Star break and you go down
Yeah.
5. That's
Or you
when.
mean like in playoffs too, when they usually go through that 5-game skid?
Look, I'm not here to have any sympathy for Brewers fans after last playoffs.
I get you.
Got
But
past the first round.
it was
Yeah.
fine. Sure.
Yeah.
It was great.
It
We'll go
was
with
great.
that.
It was great. It made me very happy to get
then it
past
made
the
you
first
very
round. And then
sad.
it made me incredibly sad,
That
yes.
made you very sad.
You got
Yeah.
to fly your L flag and take your pictures.
Did you take exception to that, Frank?
The elf flag.
No, I want teams to hate each other.
Okay, good.
I love
That's
it.
the right answer.
No,
You like a
I
little animosity.
No, I absolutely love it. I'm here for the story, Parker.
That's good.
And this
Always
creates
like
a
a
good
good story.
storyline.
Yeah. It's very fun.
Speaking of storylines, if we're in the sports vein, Doc Rivers, not that this should be a surprise if you've been watching the Bucks this season, he is officially stepping down as head coach of the Milwaukee Bucks as well. So, Parker, take on that? How do you feel about that?
Good. In
All right,
simple
thanks,
terms,
Parker.
good.
No need to elaborate.
You heard it here first,
Heard it here
folks.
first. What do you think?
Yeah, it'll
Good.
be interesting. I don't know what it'll do for the Giannis thing. I assume it probably helps with keeping Giannis, although that ship may have sailed
Although
already.
Giannis was the one who wanted Doc Rivers originally, as
Yeah.
reported, and it didn't go well at all. as
So
we've
there's
seen,
that.
so.
So I don't know. I think
Be
Giannis is
interesting.
aware
Gonna
enough.
be an interesting offseason if you're a basketball fan. Now, as we wrap up here, I think we would be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about this forecast very quickly because
Yeah, it is
Brian,
not looking good.
No, Madison should see less heavy rain than Milwaukee potentially today, but Madison is going to be in the corridor where we could see heavy rain because there is going to be a line that's going to run from Port Washington north of Milwaukee through Madison. Now, today, though, the good news is if you need to dry out a little bit, it should be dry for most of the day, but then those storms could redevelop tonight. So
Yeah. So storms developing between 6 o'clock and 2 o'clock, according to the National Weather Service. That's happening north of I-94. If that happens, if the front goes up, central part of the state. Further north, Green Bay, Wausau, Eau Claire. Large hail is the main concern. Further south into Fond du Lac, Sheboygan, and Wisconsin Dells, possible threats of large hail, damaging winds, and tornadoes. So buckle up. When we come back, the man, oh man, ceasefire didn't go as well. The peace talks, the Civic Media Network.
From Lake Superior to Lake Michigan, this is Wisconsin's Morning Conversation. Daybreak with Brian and Jamie.
good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on this Monday. It is 6:22 right now. My name is Jamie Martinson.
Good morning. I'm Brian Noonan. We're glad you're here for another week of fun, frivolity, and whatever fresh hell is unleashed on us. 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842 is how you get a hold of us and get involved in the show. Well, if you've been paying attention over the weekend, you know that our crack diplomatic team did not get the job done. Ceasefire talks between the U.S. and Iran ended in the early hours yesterday without an agreement, raising questions about what happens when a current 2-week truce expires April 22nd. Now, you could guess that the president will do what he always does and just keep pushing that deadline back, but we don't know for sure because of other things that have happened that we'll be talking about throughout the morning. Both sides blamed each other for the failure of the talks. No word on whether negotiations will resume. President Trump has made new threats against Iran in the aftermath of those talks falling back. Setback does not necessarily mean the war will resume, unless you're watching now. But it showed how Entrenched, the sides remain after an inconclusive 40-day war that inflicted heavy damage on Iran, reverberated across the region, and shook the global economy. U.S. This is what we're told, that the U.S. presented a 15-point plan that's believed to include a lot of the same demands that we've had, well, before. The proposal hasn't been made public. Pakistani officials told the AP that it also calls for the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's closure of the Strait sent oil prices spiking and global markets plunging again. And Iran's plan is not really getting a lot of traction with J.D. Vance and his ilk. They want control over the Strait. They want an end to the war. Halting attacks on their proxies like Hezbollah in Lebanon, and they demand compensation over all the damage that we've inflicted on them because of this war of choice.
Wait, okay, which would make total sense. Here's the thing. If you've got J.D. Vance over there, I don't know what his negotiation powers are, right? And so when you've got
J.D. Vance is the kiss of death. Let's be honest. He went to the Vatican. The Pope died.
Yes.
He goes to Hungary. Orbán loses. Everything J.D. Vance touches turns to garbage. So, Jared Kushner, lifelong diplomat, I say with tongue firmly in cheek.
So I think it's interesting, though, that Iran is asking for all of for compensation, and I don't think that they understand who they're negotiating with, because this administration is not, and I understand that might be a sticking point from them. There's been a lot of destruction across the entire Middle East, not just Iran, but I don't think that that's going to end the way they want it to. In fact, I would say that there's a good chance that maybe the compensatory part was a little bit of maybe why this probably ended, because I don't see this administration wanting to part with the money in order to rebuild anything at any point. But when you look at this, we're back to basically square one, right? Mm-hmm. There's no plan. That this could ramp up again at any moment. And as you rightfully pointed out, Brian, nothing has really stopped. I mean, the bombing is maybe less than it was, but Israel and Lebanon.
I was going to say,
right.
Israel has not stopped, which is
right.
another big sticking point, because Israel is still claiming, well, Lebanon was never part of the thing, the ceasefire rather. And Iran is saying, no, we don't want you bombing Lebanon. Yeah. We don't want you bombing any of the people that we finance, which we know they finance them. That's the part that is a good talking point for everyone.
Yeah.
I saw a former general was on one of the Sunday morning shows, and because the dogs had gotten me up so early, I was destined to watch some of this.
And something to do.
Well, and start my day off with anger rather than peace. And he said, when asked, it was Tim Kaine. Sorry, it was not a general. It was Tim Kaine, who was on a number of committees dealing with this kind of thing. And you remember Tim Kaine? He was vice presidential nominee. Anyway, so Tim Kaine said he saw all this classified information. There was no imminent threat. Iran is without a doubt a regional threat, and without a doubt led by bad actors. But this, again, we went into this war for nothing. And Trump is not going to make any sort of concessions, because if he makes a concession, it shows he lost. Mm-hmm. We're going to have a civics lesson later about the original Iran nuclear deal from 2016, which famously this administration in their first go-round tore up, because who had put it in place? Barack Obama. And we know if Barack Obama did it, Trump wants it gone. So we'll get into all that, but he's not going to give in, especially now he's talking about blockades and everything else. This is just going to escalate, and he has no off-ramp. There is no plan. They are not going to capitulate to all his demands. He picked the wrong adversary this time. He thought this was going to be Venezuela. And it was not.
I think the administration also miscalculated by thinking that the people of Iran really wanted the U.S. to intervene.
Yeah.
And that was not necessarily the case, because there is not a lot of love, no matter what you think of the government of Iran. The people there are very loyal to the regime of from the Ayatollah on down. And you can say what you want about that. That is what they know, and they are very loyal to what this regime does, what they represent, and they don't want the U.S. there. Right.
They hate the U.S. No matter, even they might hate the regime, they hate the U.S. more.
Yeah.
We are imperialist dogs.
Yeah.
Which was the name of my first album. But anyway, that's a whole other story. We'll get into another time. It's news time, but when we come back, it will be, oh my goodness, what's your confidence in the future of air travel? Our Secretary of Transportation has a fun idea. It's the Civic Media Network.
Now back to more of Daybreak with Brian and Jamie.
Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us. If you are listening in Madison on WMDX, or in Eau Claire on 93.5 The Tap, or in La Crosse on WLCX, we are glad that you're here. Brian, we do have a chance for some severe weather throughout the area today into potentially tomorrow. We're talking some heavy rain, maybe some hail, isolated hail, and also some damaging winds, as well as tornadoes in the Fond du Lac, Sheboygan, and Wisconsin Dells area, as the line of potential weather makes its way through the area today. So in Green Bay, Wausau, and Eau Claire, you could see large hail as the main concern. If the system moves through as predicted, it could later today. So everybody just stay weather aware.
Yeah, because they're also saying if the warm front continues to push north, which it likely will, then all of these storms might be dodged anyway. So just throughout the day, just know what's going on.
It's humid and warm this morning. It feels like it should be a lot later in the year than it actually is when you step outside. So weather aware. That's the best. That's the best advice we'll give you today.
It's all right. Later in the week next week it'll get cold again. Listen, I came of age before video games were a thing. Parker, I know that'll shock you. I know. But it seems like, and you hear all the time about, oh, well, there's transferable skills when you play video games. I don't know. I'm not denigrating people who play video games. I just never got into it. I tried a couple times as being an older person, and it was like, no, this is not for me. But the FAA, that's a Federal Aviation Administration, if you're unfamiliar. And Sean Duffy, our former lumberjack reality star and Secretary of Transportation, they're targeting a new generation of air traffic controllers, video gamers. Now, you can call me old. Somehow my vision of gamers and my theory of who should be controlling air traffic do not gel, but I could be off. So on April 17th, the FAA is going to start accepting applications to alleviate the ongoing shortage in the industry. There are 1,100 controllers, or 11,000 rather, controllers currently working. 4,000 trainees are in the pipeline, but the FAA needs thousands more so they can be fully staffed. So according to a report from the Government Accountability Office, the number of air traffic controllers in the U.S. has declined by about 6% in the last decade, which, if you're flying anytime soon, would probably give you a little cause for concern. Not a lot, don't be panicked, but it's like, all right, do we have enough people up there watching? So Sean Duffy said in a news release after he was done with his log rolling competition, to reach the next generation of air traffic controllers, we need to adapt. This campaign's innovative communication style and focus on gaming taps into a growing demographic of young adults who have many of the hard skills it takes to be a successful controller. Okay.
Do you remember when Pete Buttigieg brought this to the attention of the world as the secretary from the Department of Transportation, and the Republicans told him that this wasn't a problem, that there were plenty of air traffic controllers, and that no extra money need to be allocated to make sure that our airlines ran safely and smoothly.
Well.
Does anybody remember when that happened? Because he tried for the entire 4 years of Biden's presidency to get money to alleviate this air traffic controller issue that was coming down the pipeline.
Why
and here we
quibble about the past? Why don't we just focus on Sean Duffy's great idea? Because he's telling gamers you can level up your career. That must be a Parker. That's a video game reference.
That was a video game reference.
Right.
Well done, Brian.
Well, thank you. It includes mission requirements. Is that another? Is that Call of
Yes,
Duty?
yes.
He must have gotten Pete Hegseth to help him write that.
You can accomplish missions in any game.
Can you really?
Oh, most games.
Super Mario?
Oh, yeah. They're all missions.
Mario Kart?
Oh, come on.
There's missions?
Of course.
Just not
No,
falling off
you
the
could-
cliff
just
in
a
Mario
race.
Kart's a
There's some
mission.
kind of mission.
All right. So they want to do that. They're offering high score rewards, including paid training, government benefits, and average yearly earnings exceeding $155,000
Wow.
after 3+ years of service. Now, the FAA has targeted gamers before, Jamie. In 2021, during the last Trump administration, they launched another level up hiring campaign. It sought to attract video game players and diversity. We can't diversify the workforce anymore. That's the D. That's the big D. Right in DEI. We can't have that. So, sorry, gamers of color and lady gamers, and I don't know. So they're saying once they get 8,000 applications, they're going to close that hiring window. Candidates are going to start the process of taking attitude tests, aptitude tests too, probably an attitude test, I don't know, receiving security clearances, and for those selected, they will start training at the FAA Academy. I mean, I guess I know you can't be over 35. There's a lot of stringent criteria before you can, if your application will move forward. But
I guess the question is, what's the confidence that we all have in the future of air travel? I mean, we watched what happened, and I understand the latest go around at airports with the TSA was because of no funding, but there's no guarantee that we aren't going to have that happen again at some point. We're also talking about potentially privatizing the TSA at airports across the country. So essentially it would be run no longer by TSA, but by probably companies who have donated to the Republican Party or this administration in particular. Now we're talking about potential gamers in charge at our airport. So the question is, what is our confidence? And if you do want to answer that question today, 1-855-752-4842, 1-855-CIVIC. I don't know. I like my airport safe and secure. I want to make sure that when I get into a plane,
well, see, here's the thing.
I feel safe.
I'm not worried about the privatization of TSA. I mean, okay, there's already 20 airports that do it. If that's the case, well, one, they wouldn't have to worry about not getting paid anymore during a shutdown. They would no longer be pawns of whatever political action is happening from whatever side. They would be just an employee who's paid. What bothers me, what I am concerned about is crashing. That's or a plane running into each other, or a plane hitting a fire truck on a runway because there aren't enough air traffic controllers. So that's what I'm worried about. And it takes years for these people to be ready to get up in a tower and actually control the traffic. So this is, even if they get the 8,000 applications, it's opening up this week. So Friday they'll open the window, 8,000 applications, they'll close it. It's still a good 2-3 years before these people will be ready to actually do the job. And we're seeing the effects already of the decline in air traffic controllers. When you have one person in the tower and there should be more, and somebody had to go to the bathroom and now somebody's alone and they don't see something. It's that's what bothers me more. That's what, to be honest, I don't think about when I get on a plane because I don't want to think about it.
Right.
But when I'm sitting here on the ground and my wife's flying tonight, I'm like, well, I hope the air traffic controller doesn't have to go to the bathroom while she's coming in for a landing.
I mean, and I think it really truly is the safety issue of it. And when I think about this, because I had to really go through this and think about this. So I understand potentially why this administration would want to target gamers, processing a lot of information quickly. They have to make fast decisions, multitasking. There's reaction under pressure, especially if they're really good at what they do. And there are skills that could translate. And so I guess if you're looking at it on paper, it makes some sense. However, drawbacks, right? Because there always are with plans like this.
Not enough Mountain Dew.
No, not enough Mountain Dew. Air traffic control obviously is not a game. There's no reset button that you can just hit. There's no second chances, right? You don't get to just go replay that level again. You're dealing with real people, real planes, real consequences. And obviously, I have kids that are gamers, so like true gamers. So while it's going to build your reaction time and your focus, it's not going to automatically teach you judgment. It's not going to teach you communication, and it's not going to teach you how to handle life and death pressure situations on really long shifts, because all of that, as you rightly pointed out, is going to take a lot more training than just, here's a controller and a joystick, go. I want to feel safer than that.
Here's the thing. You can be a really good gamer at 12. Do you want them? And I know I'm taking it to the extremes, obviously, because you have to be an age.
Sure.
You can't be over 35. You're going to have to pass a battery of tests to get this. But it's like equating, I'm really good at Madden, so I can play football.
Yes.
My NBA 2K team destroys, so I should be able to manage the Bucks. All of these skills do not necessarily transfer over.
Right.
So let's not create false equivalencies in an effort to do that. You can say if you have an interest in gaming, if you are a gamer, it might be a benefit. But to target gamers seems, it's catchy. It gets
Sure.
the headlines. It gets us talking about it. And again, me saying that is nothing against gamers.
Sure.
You might have developed very quick reflexes that will benefit you in this job, but that's not gaming should not be the criteria that we're using.
I think it raises a good question, though, right? Because are we widening the pipeline the right way? I agree that it needs to be widened. We have a massive shortage of air traffic controllers in this country. Or are we just trying to fill the gap quickly? Because this is one of those jobs where you can't literally afford to cut corners. So it might help bring in a new generation. It isn't going to solve the bigger issue, why there's a shortage in the first place. I mean, there's burnout, there's stress, there's retention. Until all of that's addressed, we're going to continue to keep playing catch up and maybe not doing it the right way. We've got a lot of texts rolling in here this morning as we have this conversation, Brian. We've got Len who's chiming in, listening in Madison. He says the main problem with privatization is the priority. The priority is always profit. Can't disagree with that, especially with this administration.
But I mean, that corporations have been making profits way before Trump was ever in office. So yeah, I get it. But privatization also sometimes cuts down on all the ancillary garbage that goes with a government bureaucracy. So yeah, the companies are obviously going to make a profit, but they're probably going to streamline the process, make it quicker so that their costs are lower so that they do make a profit. So and to be honest, unless you are a TSA expert, do you know the 20 airports that are already using private TSA? No, you just go in and you go through the thing. All right, we got to get out of here, but we have a question for Badger fans after this on Daybreak on the Civic Media Network.
Local news, community stories, and the conversations that matter most. Now, more Daybreak with Brian and Jamie.
Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Civic Media Network. It is 6:52 right now. My name is Jamie Martinson.
And I'm Brian Noonan. All right, Wisconsin fans, Badger fans, your AD, Chris McIntosh, stepped down. How do you feel about that? Was he a good and successful athletic director? 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. I will have to defer to Parker on this and Jamie and you because I'm not well versed in Badger sports other than I know when the football team wins. I know the women's hockey and the men's hockey. I know about it, but I don't follow the intricacies of the athletic department. So, what do you guys?
Yeah.
I'll let you guys handle this.
Well, and for anybody who hasn't heard, Chris McIntosh will resign from his position immediately, and that is to join the Big Ten as its newly created Deputy Commissioner for Strategy. Now, of course, he took over as AD for Barry Alvarez in 2021. He oversaw 2 natties for women's hockey, women's volleyball, reached multiple Final Fours. He hired the men's hockey coach, Mike Hastings, who just finished as runner-up in the country after losing a 2-1 heartbreaker to University of Denver. McIntosh was also responsible for firing a football coach, Paul Christ, and hiring Luke Fickell as his replacement. Camp Randall Stadium, as we all saw the Badgers football season play out last season, had a capacity of just over 80,000, saw about 49,000 people per game. That was on average, which was the lowest turnout for Badgers football in decades.
But you can buy beer there now.
Yes, you
That's
can.
a big plus.
You can
See,
buy beer
I do
there.
follow some things.
I would say this, too. If you're going to Camp Randall, it's a much better venue for there's caveats to this, for watching a football game than a concert. Although the venue is great for a concert, the getting out of Camp Randall for a concert is a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. The venue itself is pretty cool. With all of that being said, though, Chris McIntosh, I mean, he's had a great career. In Wisconsin, I think he did well coming in for Alvarez. I don't know if you can look at, is the football, this is where I'll defer to Parker, is the football portion of it, is that just a blemish on what's also been a very good resume?
There are things that I think that you need to look at, like, that should or should not contribute to his resume. I don't think that volleyball should contribute to his resume because he didn't hire Sheffield.
Okay.
And Sheffield has navigated the world of NIL, I think, very well on his own, and transfer portal as well. Same can be said of Mark Johnson with women's hockey and those national titles. That was status quo already. That was a pre-McIntosh thing. I think that when you're talking about Chris McIntosh, you are looking at the hirings of Mike Hastings for men's hockey, and you are looking at the hiring of Luke Fickell for football.
So now it's like a either or, though,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Because
And you do need to look back, too. Hiring Luke Fickell at the time, the only people upset about it were just bummed that why can't I think of his name? Help.
Chris?
Jim.
Oh, who are we?
Jim Leonard.
Jim Leonard. Yes. Yes.
I could not. I was blanking there. I saw Frank. I was like, oh, Frank will know. But Jim Leonard.
I didn't know.
Oh, you didn't? Yeah. Jim Leonard, I think, would have been a good hire, but obviously Luke Fickell at the time was like
was a better, bigger name.
out of the park hire for Wisconsin. That's the other thing. He brought a huge name to Wisconsin.
Yeah. I mean, and I think when it comes to, I mean, if you're looking at just McIntosh's career, yes, I think the Fickell hiring looms large. But I think if you're looking at it as a full-out picture, the economy of hiring Luke Fickell really hurt because of the amount of people who just decided that we are not going to sit here for a Badgers game and come into Camp Randall and spend the money. So I think if you're looking at it from that aspect, then, yeah, I don't know if McIntosh's career is as exemplary as people want it to necessarily be. Frank, what's your take this morning?
You are, as working in college athletics, and I think the Big Ten's an interesting conference for this, and I don't think it's like this everywhere, but especially in the state of Wisconsin, I think you're judged on football. You're judged on your revenue sport. Yeah. This is what's funding most of the athletic department is your revenue from football. And if we're only getting just over half the amount of fans coming in on a Saturday at Camp Randall, you're in trouble. And I think that is a big part of this.
Well, was that Fickell's team or was it the team from Christ? I mean,
it's
how
been
much?
fickle. It's been
fickle for a couple of years.
Okay.
I mean, this past season, there was a lot of talks of whether Wisconsin's going to move on from Fickle and hire somebody new.
But then
and
they extended his
McIntosh
contract.
Yeah, they stood 10 toes down and were like, nope, we're rolling with Luke Fickle. And everyone was like, oh, okay. And it just kind of goes to show that Wisconsin is not a Michigan. It's not an Ohio State. You're not amongst your peers in terms of competition. You're not even Penn State at that point.
Didn't Wisconsin, the Badgers as a football team, lose a lot of players to the portal as well? A lot who said they wouldn't return, a lot who put themselves into the transfer portal. I didn't keep up on all of it, but I'd see it come across my news feed and be a name obviously that you recognize and you're like, "Oh, yikes, that's not great."
Yeah, I think so. There's definitely parts of it that just sucked for football.
And it's going to continue to suck. And I think that's McIntosh's legacy right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Sorry.
Look
at how upset Parker's getting.
You're
not even mad, though. You're just kind of helpless. And I think that's
the
point I'm getting at.
Which is
you're resigned to it. Like, this is going to suck.
And you said, too, how the Badgers can't compete with an Ohio State or a Michigan or something like that. It's partially because of the money, too. And that's just kind of the world that a smaller level school like Wisconsin does.
I covered Michigan football for 5 years during the Harbaugh years. And during that time, John Beilein was doing a great job for men's basketball. And it doesn't matter for Ward Manuel unless football's succeeding. And I think Wisconsin's very similar in that aspect.
Very true. All right, when we come back, headlines from the Persian Gulf and around the world, including Wisconsin, which is part of the world. But we've already covered the athletic director, so who knows what else is happening? Well, you'll find out after this. This is Daybreak. I'm Brian Noonan.
I'm Jamie Martinson. 6:59 right now. This is the Civic Media Network.
Wisconsin wakes up here. Back to Daybreak with Brian and Jamie.
Good morning and welcome. It is 7:06 right now. You are listening to the Civic Media Network. My name is Jamie Martinson.
And good morning. I'm Brian Noonan. If you want to get involved throughout the program, feel free at 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. We were talking about Wisconsin. We got a text saying Indiana won, why not Wisconsin? And Wisconsin wants UW football to win with 18 teams in the Big Ten. Good luck. All right. The Big Ten has lost their way with so many teams in there.
Yeah, it's not exactly the Big Ten anymore, which I think the name is funny and ironic all at the same time. But I think the Wisconsin situation is going to be interesting. If you joined us on the show, within the show on the live stream, we were just discussing that, whether or not they're going to hire a new AD from outside, whether they'll go the route of potentially hiring internally like McIntosh was. Our consensus is that they should hire from the outside. So we'll make sure that they know our opinions.
Yes, okay, bring in a fresh voice, a fresh pair of eyes, and maybe you become the next Indiana.
Yeah, you never know.
Would you want to be a Hoosier, Parker?
I've got a buddy that's a Hoosier. He seems fine. I could be a Hoosier.
He seems fine.
Wow, how easily you will swap. Lots going on in the world, so let's see what's going on, especially in the Persian Gulf. We know that the ceasefire talks, or the peace talks, did not go well, but what else is happening over there? Few headlines. The U.S. military announced it will begin a blockade of all Iranian ports and coastal areas today, tempering Trump's earlier vow to entirely block the Strait of Hormuz, as earlier reports indicated that ships had stopped crossing the waterway.
Iran responded with threats on ports in the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman. Security in the Persian Gulf and the Sea of Oman is either for everyone or for no one, according to the Islamic Republic of Iran Broadcasting. No port in the region will be safe, said the Iranian military. Wow.
Fantastic. An Israeli airstrike killed at least 3 Palestinians in central Gaza early today. Hospital authorities said the strike hit a Hamas-manned security point just after midnight in the eastern part of Deir al-Balah city in central Gaza, according to Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital, which received the dead men. One Palestinian was also wounded in the strike.
And finally, in headlines from the Middle East, Turkey's foreign minister has said that the U.S.-Iran ceasefire could be extended for 45 to 60 days to allow the negotiations to continue. Now, Turkey has actually supported the mediation efforts and says that the U.S. and Iranian delegations presented initial maximalist positions during the talks in Pakistan, adding that Iran is expected to review U.S. proposals and respond.
It's never good to go in with maximalist positions that you are the best.
Well, doesn't seem like anybody's budging. This isn't exactly negotiation tactics that either side is exhibiting.
If peace talks are ongoing, why do things keep escalating? I think part of it is, Iran has despite what the president says, Iran does have the cards. They are right now controlling the Strait, which they didn't control before. And, Trump sees them making money and doesn't want that to happen because it's another sign that his campaign over there did not succeed. So all of a sudden, if they went from making nothing to making $2 million a ship every time somebody passes through, he's like, no, I want a cut of that.
And again, we'll remind everybody, for anybody who did forget, these strikes and this war happened during the initial round of peace talks.
Yes.
We actually struck Iran during the peace talks that were happening to basically de-escalate this entire situation. So, if they're going in with a maximalist, here's the thing, and I don't ever want to side with a country like Iran, but if they're going in with a maximalist position, do you blame them? I mean, in the middle of peace talks and negotiations,
no.
The U.S. government said there was an imminent threat to this country, which there was not, and they did so in the middle of what were supposed to be peace negotiations and peace talks. So I don't blame them for going in with a maximalist position. No. And again, that's not to defend Iran. That's to defend an entire country of people who don't necessarily maybe agree with this regime either, but they still live in the country.
Well, and you can also question the methodology and reasoning behind this administration and not be a supporter of the Iranian regime.
Right.
Those two things are not mutually exclusive. All right, that's headlines from the Middle East, but there is always more stuff we need to know.
It's a wake-up call in more ways than one. Time for some you need to know.
Well, getting a little more into that lack of progress for the peace talks. There's questions about what's going to happen now. Ceasefire talks, as we said, between the U.S. and Iran ended in the early hours Sunday without an agreement. It raises questions about what happens when a current 2-week truce expires on April 22nd. Of course, nobody knows, and we don't know what the president is feeling in his gut yet. As the talks wrapped up in the Pakistani capital of Islamabad, both sides blamed each other for the failure. There was no word whether negotiations are going to resume, and President Trump made new threats against Iran. Pakistan's foreign minister said his country will try to facilitate a new round of dialogue between Iran and the U.S. in the coming days. No immediate reaction from either side, which is not good. A key obstacle seems to be a perception on both sides that they won the war and each has time on their side. Well, we know that's true here, that Donald Trump believes he won the war already, even though it's still going on. I think once you win, it's over, right?
Isn't this how we got into a long-standing Middle Eastern conflict before, though, is both sides thought they had won and nobody would give, and then we ended up with this multi-year event and this war where we continually had to send troops over to backfill what was happening. And remember, at the very start of this, there were even Republicans who warned this administration to be careful, to not get into a long-term war in the Middle East with Iran, because that is always what happens. And, well, here we are. I mean,
happening.
Yeah.
And I think I want to remind everybody in next hour, we are going to be doing a civics lesson about this, because you said, later this hour.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they had nuclear stuff. They were making about, we already had an agreement with them. And they had been, by all accounts, not just their own accounts, but by the accounts of independent inspectors who had been going in, Iran had been towing the line with this agreement.
Yes.
We'll find, and I know you've probably heard about the agreement, and maybe you don't know, so we'll have a civics lesson at 7:35 to explain the 2016 Iran nuclear deal.
Yeah, it's complicated. It's long. We'll try to give you the bits and the pieces that are most important that explain it the easiest way.
Yeah.
And all of that went
Cliff
into
Notes.
it. Exactly. I like to call it the Reader's Digest version, but I'm old. Speaking of headlines and other stuff you need to know, President Trump said yesterday that the U.S. Navy would immediately begin a blockade to stop ships from entering or leaving the Strait of Hormuz. Again, does not sound like any sort of de-escalation. After historic U.S.-Iran ceasefire talks in Pakistan ended without that agreement. Now, in his first public comments after the 21-hour talks, the president sought to exert strategic control over the waterway that was responsible for the shipping of 20% of global oil supplies before the war, hoping to eliminate Iran's key source of leverage. A U.S. blockade would further rattle global energy markets and prices for oil, natural gas, and related products. It wouldn't immediately clear how it might be it's not clear how it would be immediately carried out, though. The president told Fox News that the goal was to ensure all ships could transit. Quote, it's going to be all or none, and that's the way it is. Now, he also said that he has instructed the Navy to seek and every vessel in international waters that has paid a toll to Iran. He says that no one pays an illegal toll will have safe passage on the high seas. Other nations would be involved in the blockade, according to President Trump, but he did not name them.
Because they don't exist. Let's be honest. There's nobody. Nobody exists. And why would you intercept somebody who paid the toll? Why are you going to penalize them twice? They didn't pay the toll because you didn't want them to. They paid it so their ship could get through. Now, Can we argue that those are illegal tolls? And, well, listen, you started this. You, Donald Trump and your administration, made this possible for Iran to control the Strait. And I never thought I would be talking about the Strait of Hormuz for a month straight. Honest to God, I can't believe I'm talking about it. In my sleep, I go, 20% of the world's oil comes through.
Right,
20% of oil. Stop. But yeah, I don't get that. I don't get why you would blockade ships that are passing through legally, who are being extorted anyway. It's punishing the victims, but anyway, that's just me.
I mean, and when you hear a blockade too, right, you think of military strategy, but in this particular case, you also have to start thinking about your gas prices, your heating bills, your groceries. And this is a point that we've talked about over and over, but it bears repeating based on all of the new information that continues to come out. Because when you disrupt something that big, it's not going to just stay over there. It's going to show up right here. And it's going to be at the pump, in your utility bills, at the cost of all of your everyday goods. It's what we're dealing with our rising energy costs now. And if you throw in global instability on top of all that, then you're going to really start seeing the prices spike even more so than they really are. I mean, we watched the oil prices just spike overnight, with the barrels going up over $100 with this news. They had actually come down over the weekend when those talks started. But this is the kind of thing that's going to escalate quickly. And you're talking about intercepting ships now in international waters.
All right, in other news, a newly signed state law aims to address the critical period by extending some federal health care coverage to Wisconsinites in the months before they're released from jail or prison. Federal policy bars incarcerated people from getting Medicaid coverage in many circumstances, but states can apply for waivers, creating certain exceptions. Wisconsin's new law directs the state's health department to apply for one of those Medicaid waivers by January 1st of next year. If approved, the waiver would require the federal government to help with Medicaid coverage for eligible incarcerated people starting 90 days. My screen just jumped. 90 days before they're released from jail or prison. The coverage would include case management services, medication-assisted treatment for substance use disorders, and a 30-day supply of prescription medications. Now, currently, Wisconsin's Department of Health Services works with the State Department of Corrections so that people can apply for Medicaid while they're still in prison. The goal is to have that coverage start for eligible people on day one of their release, according to testimony submitted by DHS. Wisconsin's Department of Health Services estimates that the new law could eventually cost the state's Medicaid program $8.7 million a year, but there would be substantial savings not only to the state but to the Department of Corrections. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, I think on the surface, it sounds like a good idea. I mean, obviously, if you're leaving jail or prison to get health coverage before the release, you get things like medications, addiction treatment, maybe even case management. And look, if you're trying to get back on your feet, having that support is really important. It's going to reduce repeat offenses too, and it can also help stabilize people. And I guess that's the upside. But at the same time, you have to look at the fact that this isn't free.
No, it's not free.
Yeah.
It's and the amount that it's not equal. It's not going to, what it costs is not going to be the savings,
Right.
but there are significant savings other than the cost of these uninsured people then coming out. We're running out of time, but the Pope, Jamie, was the target of a Trump tweet or Truth Social post because the Pope, we'll get into the Pope and Donald Trump. We'll save this story for next because we got like back-to-back headlines with the Pope and Trump, and
There's a lot happening.
It's insane. It is insane. Swiper Stay coming up next. That should be fun, he said, hopefully. It is Daybreak. This is the Civic Media Network.
Let's break out of the bubble and see what's happening out there in pop culture. It's Swiper Stay on Daybreak.
7:22 right now. We hope that your morning is going well so far. This is where we put the politics aside for just a few minutes and we talk more about some of the pop culture events happening with our senior producer, Frank. How are you today?
I'm doing great. We're coming off Coachella weekend, guys. There's a lot of stuff going on this weekend. We also may have an update on a story we've all been entranced with. So I'm really excited.
All right.
Happy Monday morning to everybody. We will not be saying the T word once.
Love it.
Take that energy down a little bit, Frank. You're all amped
Come on.
up. You're all amped up.
Everybody new to the program. This is
the
Swiper
Masters.
Oh, we're going to get to that too, Brian. We got it all. For anybody new to the program, this is Swiper Stay. I'm going to read some vague pop culture headlines to Brian and Jamie. They'll have to decide whether to stay and hear more or swipe on to the next one. Producer Parker will be the tiebreaker if needed. Story number one, Coachella headliner apologizes for mocking a fan.
Stay. I know this story.
Sabrina Carpenter has apologized on X, Twitter, for an awkward crowd interaction during her set on Friday night. Between songs, she heard what she described as yodeling from the crowd.
This was such a big story over the weekend. Oh my God.
I watched it happen live.
I did not hear about, not a surprise.
Now you will. Sabrina said, "Ooh, I don't like that." To which the fan responded, "It's my culture." To which Sabrina said, "That's your culture, is yodeling?" And then the person said, "It's a call of celebration." To which Carpenter joked, "Is this Burning Man? What's going on? This is weird." It's actually, I'm going to try to pronounce this, and it's going to be butchered. A zagruta, a celebratory chant in Arabic culture. Sabrina addressed the situation saying, "My apologies, I didn't see this person with my eyes and couldn't hear clearly. My reaction was pure confusion, sarcasm, and not ill-intended. Could have handled it better. Now I know what that is. I welcome all cheers and yodels from here on out." People were genuine. Let me get on my soapbox here real quick.
Right.
Oh, people were upset.
People were upset.
People
Let
need
me
to
tell
lighten
you,
up.
people, yes. Put yourself up on that stage. And if you watch the set at all, there are like 1950s cars everywhere. There's like 30 background dancers. There's a massive crowd. There is so much going on. First of all, I don't need to interact with any of you in this audience. And if I'm her, I probably never will again.
Yeah.
Right.
After this, I don't know what's happening. I made a quick little joke. And now people are like, this is the problem. Like, I saw one person like, this is the problem with white women and their privilege.
Oh
and I'm
my
like,
God.
dude,
Oh my
she didn't
God.
know what was happening.
Yeah.
You can't even see when you're on stage. The
You
lights
can't
are
see
so bright, you
anything.
can't see anything that's happening
And-
out in front of you.
Okay, listen. This was not anti-Islam. It's not Islamophobia.
No.
It's somebody heckled during a show and they nicely just commented on. An artist has a right because obviously if Sabrina Carpenter heard it on stage while all
was
this
loud.
is going on,
Right.
everybody heard
Yeah.
it. So And there are probably a lot of people going, what the hell was that?
I mean, I watched the live stream and you could like faintly hear it because it was very quiet during this moment in the set. Anyway, it was just weird. It was more confusion than like, I know what that is. I hate that. Stop doing that. It was.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to lighten up. Take a chill pill. It's Coachella. Enjoy the music festival. This is like the least concerning thing that could have gone down.
Next.
We're moving on to the next one, and we're staying with Coachella. Saturday night's Coachella headliner left fans pretty split.
Stay.
Brian, trust me on this one.
All right, I'll stay.
Just trust me.
I'll stay.
So as much controversy as Sabrina just had, I would say Saturday night was even more controversial. And this was from a music performance standpoint.
Okay.
So Justin Bieber headlined Saturday, and
really?
everybody was really excited. Mrs. Frank was pumped. As a believer herself back in the day.
A believer.
This was Bieber's first major performance in 4 years after stepping away due to health issues. Okay. So Carpenter's set, if you watched it, was filled with Hollywood motifs, a monologue from Susan Sarandon, a cameo from Samuel L. Jackson saying his favorite curse word, and Will Ferrell even came out as a maintenance man to fix the power.
Yes.
There was a lot going on. Bieber's set featured a half-hour session in which he sat at his laptop and searched old music videos of himself and sang along to them.
Yes. It
All
was
right,
very
I'm out.
strange.
I don't know.
It was so
First
strange.
of all, Coachella's the one in Nashville, right?
Nope, this is California.
All right. That's not Burning Man. That's a different one.
Burning Man's even different than, I don't even, is there anything in Nashville? Bonnaroo's in Tennessee.
That's it, Bonnaroo in Tennessee.
Bonnaroo.
All right, I don't know. I'm out. Justin Bieber, what?
It was so strange. It was weirder than his music awards performance where he was just up there in his boxers and playing his own instruments. It was very strange.
How long before people started screaming and like yelling?
Well, that's the thing,
Was there
Brian.
any of these shrieks from the person who
There was a lot of
Sabrina
screaming going on, but a lot of people loved it. And for as many people as there were that hated it, there were a lot of people defending it, saying it was actually iconic. And I kind of love, people like
it's
to
so
spin
artistic
things.
and creative.
It's so artistic. I love the direction that this went in because it really speaks to the digital age that we're in.
Oh my God.
And it's like, dude, you paid how much money and stood in that desert pit to watch a guy look up YouTube videos after he was done singing his hits, which he only sang like a verse of. He then went on and started looking up meme videos.
Yeah, it
with
was
the
very
crowd.
strange.
He finished strong with actual songs from his newer stuff, but I'd be
Nobody's
pissed.
there for the new stuff. Like, nobody was there for the new stuff, though. Let's be realistic. If you were a believer, Mrs. Frank did not tune in to listen to him sing anything new. She wanted to hear the old
And
stuff.
and she was singing along.
And all
on the couch
Coachella,
that portion.
Swiper State.
I know. We only got 2 stories. I'm going to keep a couple more for tomorrow.
Yeah,
because
please.
they're good.
Something that I might understand. That would be great.
You're welcome, Brian.
Thanks, Frank. Nice job. All right, when we come back, the 2016 Iran nuclear deal, you've heard of it. Now you'll learn more about it on the Civic Media Network.
Take your seats, kids. It's time for a civics lesson.
7:35 right now. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Civic Media Network. Oh, it is time for a little civics lesson, Brian. There we go. I'll get the words out yet.
It is because we've been hearing so much about Iran and their nuclear weapons, and was their program demolished a couple months ago, and then it's back, and it's this and that, and you may have heard, and even if you don't remember, you've been hearing, well, we had a deal with Iran. There was a nuclear deal, and maybe all you remember is pallets of money and people complaining about that. And so it's important to kind of go back and revisit what we had versus what we lost and what we have now. So, Professor Martinson, take the podium and please give us a civics lesson.
Well, let's start with what the Iran nuclear deal is. It's also called, you might sometimes hear it referred to as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the JCPOA, if you want to get, super fancy. But it was a major international agreement. It was reached in 2015. About 2 years of negotiations went into this JCPOA. It involved the United States, Iran, and major world powers, including the UK, France, Germany, China, Russia, and the European Union. The main goal was simply to prevent Iran from developing a nuclear weapon while avoiding any sort of war. Instead of completely shutting down Iran's nuclear program, the deal aimed to strictly limit it and monitor it closely. In return, Iran would get relief from heavy economic sanctions, allowing its economy to recover. Now, under this deal, Iran agreed to dramatically scale back its nuclear capabilities. It reduced its enriched uranium stockpile by about 98%, keeping only a small controlled amount. It capped uranium enrichment at about 4%, which was far below the weapons grade, which is about 90%. Iran also removed roughly 2/3 of its centrifuges, slowing its ability to produce nuclear material. A key part of this deal was strict international monitoring. In fact, the International Atomic Energy Agency was given broad access to inspect nuclear facilities and verify compliance. Those inspections were considered some of the most detailed and intrusive ever negotiated. In exchange for all of this, the U.S. and other countries lifted major sanctions on Iran and gave Iran access to tens of billions of dollars in previously frozen assets. The economy, as you can imagine, saw a boost, including a significant growth in 2016 and 2017. So, so this deal officially took effect in January of 2016 after inspectors confirmed that Iran met the requirements. Okay. At that time, a lot of experts believed that the agreement would actually delay Iran's ability to build a nuclear weapon for at least 10 to 15 years. It also ensured that if Iran tried to break the rules, the world would likely know quickly due to these inspections. The deal had built-in limits known as sunset provisions, though, as well. Some of those restrictions would expire over time, including limits on centrifuges after about 10 years and limits on uranium stockpiles after about 15 years.
So we haven't hit those benchmarks yet. We're getting close to the centrifuge benchmark,
right.
But the uranium stockpile, we were still...
Yes.
So they must have not been doing this, right? They must not have been following this.
Well, no, they were actually following it. They were following it because they were using the money that they were getting back from the lift on sanctions to rebuild the economy, which was important for the entire country. So let's go back to 2018 now, right? Donald Trump withdrew the U.S. from this agreement, and he argued that the deal was defective and too weak to stop Iran long term. The U.S. reimposed strict economic sanctions aiming to pressure Iran into some sort of new deal. And the key allies who originally signed on to the original deal, like France, Germany, and the UK, disagreed with this decision and stayed in the deal initially. Now, after the U.S. decided to withdraw, Iran began gradually pulling back from its commitments. It increased uranium enrichment levels, in some cases up to about 60%, which is close to weapons grade.
So, Professor,
yes.
A question. So are we saying that once again it seems that our actions caused a reaction by Iran that goes against an agreement that we were in with Iran?
Yes.
And then decided we didn't want to be in with Iran?
Yes, because when we pulled back the deal, Iran saw this as the U.S. pulling back their support and basically taking back their word after the strict deal had been in place.
That sounds like bombing a country while you're negotiating peace with them. That sounds silly.
Right. So essentially, they began to expand their stockpile of nuclear material. And they also reduced cooperation with international inspectors, which limited the transparency and how much we knew about the nuclear program that they were trying to build. As a result of this, Iran's breakout time, which is the time needed to produce enough materials for a nuclear weapon, dropped from over a year under the deal to just months or potentially weeks. Now, the deal, as you can imagine, or the collapse of it, I should say, led to rising tensions in the region, including an increased conflict between Iran and Israel, attacks on ships and energy infrastructure, and ongoing military threats and escalation. The U.S. strategy after leaving this deal, often called maximum pressure, aimed to force Iran into a better agreement. It did not result, though, as we all know, in a new deal, and those tensions continued to grow. The economy in Iran was actually hurt by the sanctions, especially on oil exports, but it continued advancing its nuclear program. Now, President Biden attempted to revive the deal through negotiations, and talks continued for years, basically throughout his entire presidency, but ultimately failed to bring both sides back into compliance. Now, as of right now, the Iran nuclear deal is considered essentially defunct. Iran now has more enriched uranium than allowed under the original deal, more advanced nuclear technology, less international oversight than before, and a lot of experts say that ending the deal by President Donald Trump during his first term led to less visibility into their nuclear activities, a faster path for Iran to potentially build a weapon, increased risk of military conflict, and strained relationships between the U.S. as well as its allies. Now, of course, there are people who say that, if they supported this deal, they argued that it provided time, stability, and transparency. There's a lot of people who say that it was temporary, it didn't go far enough. It probably didn't. That's the art of negotiation, though, right?
But
That
it's
both
also
sides have to come to the table.
right, and it would still be in effect now,
Yes.
which leads to a better ability to extend something because both sides now have a track record to build on. Iran can say, "Listen, we did what you said," and the U.S. and the other allies, which we are losing rapidly, but we could say, "All right, you're right. You did a good job. So now we can extend it." But right now, once you trust, whether it's on a personal level or a international and diplomatic level, doesn't just come and go. Once you lose trust, it doesn't come back quickly. And we have squandered all our trust and goodwill with a country that doesn't, do they deserve a lot of trust and goodwill? No, but if you're entering a deal, that's the devil you know. And sometimes you just got to let a sleeping bear lie, and they were doing what they were supposed to do.
Yeah. Yes.
But
and it was working.
It was yes. That's the most important thing. But Donald Trump cannot have that because that's Barack Obama. And he cannot have anything. He's got to be the best deal maker. Well, the Strait was open before he started bombing this war. They were operating under this deal. So what has he done? How has his deal been better?
So far, it hasn't. I mean, and that's the key to all of this. There isn't a better deal in place, and now we have this war in Iran. What I think is also interesting, and again, I'm going to say it because this was not a perfect deal, but it put limits on Iran's nuclear program. Inspectors had access, and it bought time. And in situations where another country, where you don't know what they're going to do, when you can buy that sort of time and have that sort of transparency into the mechanism and the system that they are building, that's important. It's absolutely important. And now, with less oversight, they were ramping things back up because the United States basically went back on their word. So Iran was like, well, why should we stay true to our word if they're not going to adhere to what they signed? And that's essentially how we got into this situation where obviously, there's threats, strikes, talks of war, which we're already in. And that's literally how we got to where we are in a 10-year time span.
And the money that they love to show, the news media loves to show the pallets of money being sent back. That was money that was owed, that had been taken from Iran as part of the sanctions. It went to the rebuilding, which was part of the deal. And yes, you have to give something to get something. So the money went back to them. It was not a payoff.
No.
It was money that had been held and seized, and now it was being released. Right. It was their money.
It was absolutely their money. And this is why foreign policy, though, and the decisions made at a top level are so important, because you're not flipping a switch on and off, Brian. When you walk away from an agreement like the original Iran nuclear deal, it is certainly going to change relationships, obviously not with just Iran. But at that stage, if you are one of our allies, if you are the European Union, if you're the UK, if you're France, how do you even begin to trust an administration who walks away from a deal that took so long to negotiate and so many people were on board with, and just say, okay, I guess this is what we're doing now? Countries aren't going to do that. No. They understand the work and the danger that that went into all of this, and they understand the ramifications of making willy-nilly decisions like that, because that's what it was. There was no thought process behind it.
Well, and that's why some people might say, well, why do you keep harping on this? Why do you keep bringing this up? Because it's important to remember what was in place. It's important to remember what the situation was prior to our starting the war. We also have to look at what was the Israeli intention to get us in there. What did they offer to Trump, or what do they have on Trump that made him decide he could just enter this war on his own with his own gut feeling, despite all evidence to the contrary about his claim that they were days away from a nuclear weapon. So you have to look at the past to make sure you know how to judge what's happening right now. And it's pretty easy to draw the line and say, well, this seemed to be working. Why is it not? And it all does fall at the feet of one person.
By essentially
two people really for this war, Netanyahu and Trump.
Yes. By essentially tearing up the original deal, right? It changed trust in the United States. It changed the leverage the United States had. And now we're in a position where diplomacy is harder, tensions are higher, and the stakes right now are much bigger. And here's the thing.
Well, that's why we send our top tier people, Jamie.
And I think here's the thing that we really need to remember. We keep bouncing between extremes. So one administration is going to make a deal, another's tearing it up, and then we try to rebuild it or replace it. And that kind of back and forth that the United States has put a country like Iran, who's just looking for the slightest crack in the crevice, like crack in the system, because that's all Iran really wants. They are making it hard for not only that country to trust the United States long term, but all of our allies who we need around the world.
Exactly. All right, when I say Harley rider, picture it in your mind. What do you think? Well, Harley-Davidson is trying to change that image that you have in your mind, and we'll get to that on the other side. It is Daybreak. I'm Brian Noonan.
I'm Jamie Martinson. 7:48 right now. This is the Civic Media Network.
Local voices, statewide impact. It's Daybreak with Brian and Jamie.
Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on the Civic Media Network. It is 7:52. And remember, if you want to follow along to all of the things that we're doing here on Daybreak, you can follow us on social media. Check out our Facebook page. Check out our Instagram page. Just do a search for Daybreak with Brian and Jamie, and you can see all of the behind-the-scenes stuff, and find out that sometimes we talk about things that aren't politics related to, because we have other interests, Brian.
Sure, I guess. Yeah, of course we do. I'm interested in this because I want to know your perception. Everybody, when you hear Harley-Davidson or a Harley-Davidson rider, you conjure up a picture in your head. And I want to know what that picture is and if a marketing reset could change your mind. 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. Because, the stereotype of a Harley rider is back in the Hells Angels days. Yeah. The leather, the dirty, the long beard, the loud bikes that roar into town and terrorize a local sheriff and take over. And we know that's not true. Then there's the Harley riders that are very set in their ways, and they're dedicated, they're brand loyal, and they do so much work on their bikes themselves, and they customize it so their bike has their own personality. And those are the kind of images and preconceived notions that people have about Harleys and their riders that Harley-Davidson is now trying to freshen up. They are trying to bring a newer, more youthful, more fun vibe, which seems antithetical to Harley, but that's okay. They're rebranding a push that emphasizes fun and joy, the fun and joy of motorcycling. The move comes as the motorcycle maker is under a new CEO, Artie Stars, and Artie is putting less emphasis on riders who can be seen as brooding, older, and intimidating. If I'm a Harley rider who's been riding Harleys my whole life, I want to be viewed as brooding, older, and intimidating. Right? That's part of the deal. Not in a biker gang kind of way, but just as if I always feel if somebody pulls up on a Harley, they're serious. Now, I know there's weekend warriors and people who just have money so they can buy a Harley and pretend that they're serious. But anyway, that's not what's happening. So Stars wants a more joyful branding and advertising that celebrates our community in a uniquely Harley-Davidson way, Jamie. It is the Ride campaign. It has videos featuring Willie Nelson's song On the Road Again and commercials broadcast nationwide and on streaming services that just make it seem like Harley is just, like taking a ride, which it can't. There is a great, I've always, full disclosure, I don't have a motorcycle. I have my motorcycle license because I took a riding class.
Sure.
I've always wanted one. Now I'm to the age where I get excited at the thought of a Harley trike. I've given up
trikes are the best.
Yes, I've given up I always wanted to have a Fat Boy, but
Sure.
now a trike seems just lovely.
Oh, trikes are the best. I grew up around motorcycles. My dad had a Harley. We had a
Was he a
limited,
biker? Was he in a gang?
No, he was not. My dad was probably the most unassuming guy that you would ever expect on a Harley, which why this story to me is hilarious because of that. But we had a sidecar on our Harley because we went out as a family, and I rode in the sidecar. We had a limited edition. It was Starburst purple. My dad had it basically down to the original.
Nice.
He had friends who were the guys who did all the work on
chrome
him.
And all that.
Oh yeah, it was a gorgeous bike. Kind of sparkly purple, and there were only, I believe, like 5,000 of them in that color ever made. So my dad still had it down to the original. But this story is funny to me because I started going out to Sturgis, and people have what they think Sturgis is in their mind. And it has changed a lot over the years. But originally when my parents started taking me out to Sturgis with them, it was not as family friendly as it is now. It is a lot more family friendly. And I say that knowing that there are still parts of Sturgis that you don't take the kiddos to.
I was going to say, it hasn't become Disneyland.
No, it has not. But what I think is hilarious is my parents, that was their goal. Now, I lost my dad about 20 years ago. And so one of their dreams was to have a Harley trike because as they got older, then it was, easier for him to maneuver and easier for my mom to ride on. And
then you
like
get the
that.
cool intercoms where you can talk to each other through your helmet.
Oh, my gosh, yes.
Pass over, approaching 70 miles an hour on turnpike. Here we go.
So I find this story funny because you talk about the weekend warriors. We used to laugh about the people who would get one pair of jeans and start dirtying them up about 6 months before they had to go out to Sturgis so that they look like they fit in. They'd start growing their beard out about a month before so they had that image of the Harley rider. But I think a lot of that you could blame movies for that, right?
You can blame movies, but I also wonder because there is that iconic vibe of riding a Harley, and even if you're not in that life, there's something about riding a Harley that does set you apart. And I wonder how current Harley riders are hearing this and going, yeah, but that's not what this is about. This is yes, it's a brand. Yes, you're a company. Yes, I understand you want to make a profit.
There's a prestige that goes with a Harley.
There's a prestige and there's an image and there's a feel. And you either buy into it or you don't. But the problem is, I guess for Harley's bottom line, more people than not are not buying into it. Plus, let's be honest, to buy a bike is expensive.
Yes,
so it's
they're not cheap.
Right. It's not for just, you gotta save and you gotta invest. It's a lifestyle choice.
It is. And to maintain them is not cheap either.
No.
And with the Harley we had, it was in 1973. So, by the time I even was old enough to realize what was happening, it was already, there was a lot of maintenance that went into that bike. But I just think that this is funny for the simple reason is you're right. It is a prestige thing, and I think that people who don't truly understand that and just want to say, "Oh, I have myself a Harley," they're never going to truly get it.
No.
They're going to never truly understand what it means to have that feeling of the Harley.
Tom says trikes flip over. Not as easy as a two-wheel bike
Two-wheels are
falls.
much easier.
It's much easier to flip it. You got to work to flip a trike, which I'm not putting it past me, but golf carts flip too. Everything can flip. All right, when we come back, headlines. This is Daybreak. I'm Brian Noonan.
I'm Jamie Martinson. This is the Civic Media Network.
Across the state of Wisconsin, Daybreak with Brian and Jamie is back.
Good morning. Happy Monday. Thank you so much for joining us. It is 6 minutes after 8 now. You are listening to the Civic Media Network. And if you're in Hayward, listening on WBZH, or in Wisconsin Rapids on WFHR, or if you're listening in Wausau on WXCO, thank you so much for joining us today. I am Jamie Martinson.
And I'm Brian Noonan. We're glad you're here. Anything you want to talk about, you can jump in with us. 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. It is time to check headlines. First, we always go to the war. Yes, there is a ceasefire, fragile as it may be in effect, but things are still popping off over in the region. So let's check out what's going on. The U.S. military said it will enforce a blockade on all traffic entering and leaving Iranian ports in the Strait of Hormuz starting at 10 o'clock Eastern time today, so in about an hour. That's after weekend peace talks in Pakistan faltered. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has vowed to retaliate.
Also this morning, oil prices have again topped $100 a barrel, and stock markets fell as the collapsed weekend talks and imminent blockade threatened to further disrupt the global economy.
The Israeli military has shifted its focus to Lebanon during the 2-week ceasefire with Iran. Yeah, why take a break? That, according to an Israeli military official, the Israel Defense Forces view Lebanon as, quote, the main operational front for now, the official said, while maintaining a, quote, high level of alert and readiness for any developments regarding Iran.
And finally this morning, France and the United Kingdom will convene talks aimed at restoring freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz. That's according to French President Emmanuel Macron and his comments on X earlier this morning. He added that this would be a strictly defensive mission. Oh, in other words, we are still not going to help the United States, but we have to make sure that the people of our country and the European Union have what they need.
Well, we talked about trust before, and our allies are no longer trust the administration, and unfortunately, that means they have to do things that I'm sure will be either criticized by the administration, calling them cowards and not having our back, or spun to say, look, see, they're supporting us. They're all behind us. All right, well, that's what's happening over in the Persian Gulf. But there's stuff happening in other places. There is actually stuff we need to know.
It's a wake-up call in more ways than one. Time for some you need to know.
Much closer to home. Now, we followed this story. Everybody was talking about this story. And Jamie, I know you and I shared disbelief. We couldn't believe it. When we heard about the woman who was detained by ICE. She was in Chicago. Then she ended up in Dodge County in a jail, but then she was found out at a gas station. We were like, how could this happen? This is outrageous. Turns out it might have been outrageous because Dodge County Sheriff Dale Schmidt spent much of the last month personally investigating an Illinois woman's claim that she was detained for hours by immigration authorities at O'Hare Airport in Chicago, taken across state lines to the Dodge County jail, and then released onto the street in the middle of the night. On April 10th, Schmidt presented his findings in a detailed slideshow. This was a guy who was not going quietly into that night. None of this is true, he said. The evidence he offered does provide very little room for Sonny Nakvi's narrative to be accurate. Nakvi, 28-year-old woman from Skokie, Illinois, a U.S. citizen, was actually checked into a hotel across the street from O'Hare during the time she claimed to be in ICE custody. That's according to receipts. We love when you can show receipts from the Rosemont Hampton Inn and Suites, a lovely hotel right by the airport. Schmidt's now suing Nakvi, and whatever. Well, listen, we don't know. Maybe Hampton Inn and Suites wants to sponsor Daybreak. So the Cook County Commissioner Kevin Morrison is being sued. Nakvi's being sued, all for defamation.
Wow.
He's asking for $1 million. He argues that he and his sheriff's office suffered reputational damage by her claims. Okay, I'm going to throw an apology out there now because we were questioning what was going on with the Dodge County Sheriff. Sue, don't sue us for $1 million. We were just going by the news. We didn't make up the claims. We were just reporting on them.
Right.
The sheriff said, "I will not stand by while false narratives are used to portray law enforcement as something it is not. I take it personally when my staff are called liars. Dodge County is not the place you want to make up a hoax about." I guess not. So the biggest break in the investigation came when Schmidt interviewed the ex-boyfriend of Nakvi, who he said approached the sheriff and provided text messages from the woman. That boyfriend of 3 years gave Nakvi as much as $25,000 over the course of a month, including spending his entire $12,000 tax return so she could travel to Turkey. Schmidt said it remains unclear while she claimed to be held by ICE. But he's suing, and sounds like he's got the proof to win that suit.
Yeah, here's the thing about this story that really bothers me. In a time when everything is so volatile, especially with immigration and ICE, and the fact that we have the Dodge County jail basically being used as a detention center, why add fuel to the fire? It's bad enough already. Don't play the victim for everybody, right? Like, there's already so much mistrust out there that we don't need you adding to this in the midst of everything else. So,
some people just like attention.
Sure, we'll go with that. Speaking of liking attention,
yeah,
and other stories of
the
stuff
unwanted
you need to
attention
know.
of young
Yeah,
interns.
this was a story that I think came out of left field. Eric Swalwell has been, from California.
Mm-hmm.
He's actually suspended his campaign for governor following multiple allegations of sexual misconduct. A former 21-year-old staff member accused him of sexual assault, claiming incidents happened when she was too intoxicated to give consent. At least 3 additional women have now accused him of inappropriate behavior, including sending unsolicited nude photos and explicit messages. Now, Swalwell has denied all of these allegations, saying they're absolutely false and part of an effort to derail his campaign. He admitted to mistakes in judgment, but maintains he did not commit any assault and plans to fight the claims legally. He has stepped away from the governor's race, saying defending himself should not distract from the campaign or his supporters. These allegations triggered immediate political fallout, with campaign staff, co-chairs, and major supporters resigning or distancing themselves. High-profile Democrats, including Adam Schiff and Alex Padilla, withdrew support or called for him to drop out. The California Teachers Association, as well as other key backers, suspended their endorsements, signaling a collapse in institutional support. A separate federal investigation was opened into these allegations that he hired a nanny without proper work authorization. Now, Swalwell has been emerging as a frontrunner in a very crowded Democratic field for the governor of California. So this exit reshapes the race. It could also open the door for other candidates. Now, here in Wisconsin, Brian,
Yes.
Rebecca Cook, who is running against Derek Van Orden, had to make a very public decision based on this story that came out over the weekend. She had to cut ties with Eric Swalwell, rejected his endorsement, and is now donating all of the campaign money that he gave to her to local food pantries and charities in western Wisconsin, which that's called quiet damage control.
Yeah, because this was not a secret. The latest allegation came out recently, but there were rumblings of these other 3 previous allegations before, and leadership knew about it. They tried keeping him off certain committees because of the potential bombshell it could be when this finally came out, and it has. And boy, he made a 180, because he was the other day he was gonna fight this for all it's worth. He was gonna take it to court. He was gonna not drop out. He was staying to fight, and now I always love it. I didn't want to distract from the real work of the race. Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
okay. All
you're
right.
out. You're out no matter what.
At some point, he's got to play damage control for his own family, because he does have a wife and 3 young kids as well, right?
Sure.
And in a case like this,
how much worse could it get, though? I mean, you've already these allegations are already out there. So you weren't a family man.
At least stay out of the press so that your family can deal with this in the way that they need to, because anytime you involve the press in any situation like this, it's going to be a bad enough fallout for him and his career. At least keep the wife and the kids who are innocent in this whole thing. Just keep them out of it. Let them do what they need to do in private without making it worse for yourself. I mean, that's kind of how I feel in these sorts of instances. This is also going to be interesting as well because the Democrats are responding, not just to his run for governor, but you mentioned it. They're trying to push him out of his seat now in Congress. If that happens, this is already razor-thin margins. The Democrats say if they force him to if he's forced to resign, they're going to try to force Tony Gonzalez, the Republican, who also has devastating allegations against him, to also resign because they should all be out. I mean, if you're accused of any of these things,
I got it. No, you're 100% right. We got to get to this story. We got to, because this is once again now. Just a quick recap. Saturday, the Pope made these comments at a prayer service. Enough of the idolatry of self and money. Enough of the display of power. Enough of war. So that spurned our president to go after the Pope in a long screed on Truth Social. He said, the Pope is weak on crime and terrible at foreign policy. I don't think he's doing a very good job. He likes crime, I guess. This was at the Joint Base, Andrews Air Force Base the other day. Yesterday, he was talking to reporters. We don't like a Pope that's going to say it's okay to have a nuclear weapon. We don't want a Pope who says crime is okay. First of all, shut up. The Pope did not say that it was okay to have a nuclear weapon or crime was okay. I'm not a big fan of Pope Leo, he said. The Pope criticized him last week. He criticized him on Saturday. And Trump went on to say that Leo should be thankful because, as everyone knows, he was a shocking surprise. He wasn't on any list to be Pope and was only put there by the church because he was an American, and they thought that would be the best way to deal with President Donald J. Trump. If I wasn't in the White House, Leo wouldn't be in the Vatican. The Pope today said he has no fear of the Trump administration, and he will continue to speak out after the U.S. president. The Pope is from the south suburbs of Chicago. He doesn't play. He's been around a long time.
He's seen a few things.
He's seen a few, and it was a surprise. He was not on the list. Pizzaioli or something. That was the guy who was supposed to be the front runner to become Pope. But hey, he's Pope, and it really had nothing to do with Donald J. Trump.
No,
I know he thinks the world revolves around him, and for the Pope to come out and say, make those comments about the self-importance and all of that, it just, how do you pick a fight with the Pope? It just shows it doesn't matter who you are. If you disagree with him, Donald Trump will be going after you. I hope the Dalai Lama doesn't say something. Who knows what other religious leaders could come out and say something against the war, and then Donald Trump will just turn on them too. Because when Trump was elected, or when Leo was made Pope,
sure,
Trump came out and said what an honor it was for the country to have an American Pope.
Right.
But that was before the Pope went, hey, man, you're kind of being a jerk about this whole war thing.
I still think this goes back to something I said on Friday, too, because the Pope isn't he's not a political figure, right? But his voice does carry weight, especially amongst Catholics. And I think there are a lot of Catholics in the United States who did support Donald Trump and did reelect him. And so you've got the leader of this church who very clearly is pushing back on the president and, frankly, the direction that this presidency is going. So I still would be interested to know if Catholics are okay with what the president is now saying about the leader of their church, and if they're okay with the Pope basically saying this is not the direction we want to go.
Well, if you know any of the 10 Commandments, pick any of them. Donald Trump has violated all of them. So if you're that strict a Catholic, you probably shouldn't be backing this guy anyway, and yet that doesn't help. Low-income home energy assistance programs are coming in the crosshairs of you-know-who. We'll talk about it after this. This is Daybreak on the Civic Media Network.
All facts, no fiction. It's Daybreak with Brian and Jamie.
It's 8:22 right now. We hope that your morning is going well so far. Thank you so much for spending it with us. We always appreciate it. My name is Jamie Martinson.
And I'm Brian Noonan. If you're part of the low-income home energy assistance program, you may want to worry. And in Wisconsin, 190,000 households do receive help from that program. About 25,000 households needed emergency help to avoid losing heat or power. Well, the Trump administration is proposing that they eliminate that program, the Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program. It helps low-income households pay for heating and cooling, especially during extreme weather, which we've seen all winter, and I'm sure we're going to see in the summer. This is the sixth time that the president has proposed cutting this program. Man, it's hard. Anything that actually helps people, we got to get rid of. But give me another couple $1 trillion for the military.
Well, and that's just it.
If
this
people,
this is all part of his 2027 budget, right? That he unveiled a couple weeks ago now. And it was a very anti-human, anti-people budget, but very pro-military, pro-defense. Because you're right. I mean,
we seem to be doing okay.
It had about $1.5 trillion for military funding, but it essentially cut all things that help average people. Like this program for energy assistance. It even took deeper cuts into SNAP, Medicaid. So where we end up on that, I have no idea, but that's where this sixth time proposal comes from for this particular instance.
One of these times, I'm hoping he gets tired of it and gets distracted, but he wants that more than $1 trillion for the military, which seems to be funded pretty well. And I'm not saying cut their funding, but I'm saying, why are you cutting this funding, these kind of programs? So as of early 2026, people are paying about 11% more for gas, nearly 5% more for electricity. We've talked about that. And in areas, and I hate to bring it back to data centers, but oh my gosh, how can we go? We went almost a whole week without mentioning data centers last week. So I want to start the week off on a high note. We only foresee our energy bills going higher, which is why I bring them up. Congress, they say, is likely to not go along with the president on this. They are not going to fully eliminate LIHEAP. I'm just going to say the low income.
Sure.
I hate when acronyms don't make sense. Like if it was HOT or something, then you throw that in. But LIHEAP, it has support from both parties, so it doesn't seem, because there are some people with a little bit of sense in Congress.
Right.
And letting people die of either extreme heat or extreme cold, probably not a good look.
I mean, and let's be realistic. For the average benefit, it's about $700. But for a lot of people, especially the people that this benefits, especially here in Wisconsin, that is the difference between actually paying a bill or falling completely behind. Because this program also supports a lot of vulnerable residents, including 77,000 seniors and 74,000 households with disabilities right here in the state of Wisconsin. And when you look at Wisconsin as a whole, over the past 5 years, customers have seen their total increases in energy bills of about 27%. And I know that doesn't always seem like much when you look at it over that time period, but for some people, that is literally the difference between paying that bill or not paying that bill.
People live on razor thin margins. A lot more people probably than you think.
Yes, absolutely. And, if you're worried about your energy bills, obviously there are some things that you can do. You can use Focus on energy rebates. You can also get those free kits from your electric companies that help you find some sort of way to use energy efficiency in your home. Sometimes it's for windows, sometimes it's for air leaks and things like that, which I always find to be interesting because it's because of the energy companies why our energy bills keep going up, but yet they're willing to at least give us a free kit to plug
put some
holes.
plastic on. As a guy who just took the plastic off a lot of his windows yesterday, my heating bill was still way up. And we don't keep the house hot at all.
No.
But it was like, oh no.
It's unfortunate right now, because if a lot of people are faced with that that same thing. Energy companies also tell us if you haven't made the switch to the LED bulbs, please do that. I don't know how you can't, because I don't even know if you can buy
do
an
they still
incandescent
sell
bulb.
incandescent light bulbs anywhere?
You know, to upgrade to your Energy Star appliances, which I always find interesting as well, because if you can barely afford your energy bill, you're not upgrading your appliances.
I was going to say, I'm looking at this list of what you can do, and what you can do always encompasses, hey, spend more money.
More money.
I don't have more money. I need to be on this program. Well, listen, have you thought about buying a new fridge? No, I'm happy my fridge is still working.
The budget billing, if you don't need energy assistance, but you can budget bill, that's always helpful, because at least you get the same bill every month, and it changes like 2 or 3 times a year based on your billing. But that's always helpful, because at least it's the same amount every month, right?
True.
And then, of course, you can always speak to your elected officials, and I'm not talking necessarily your state representatives, but we're talking your local and your county officials, because they're going to have more say on those local markets than somebody at a state level. And then, of course, and I know this seems trite, but make sure you're voting in those upcoming elections, right? We have the midterms coming up in November, and I know we say it a lot, but really, honestly, if you're worried about things at your local and your county level, that's where you're going to make the most change. So it's important to get to the polls.
I do like one of their tips is run your appliances efficiently. What does that mean?
Not too cold.
Should I only turn the burner up a little bit? It's going to take me 3 hours to get my pot of water to boil, but which doesn't seem very efficient. So, if I do one giant load of laundry, my washing machine is going to overflow because I don't have enough money to buy my Energy Star appliance. So, what do you want me to do?
They get us coming or going, right? It doesn't matter.
Well, good news came out of Hungary the other day. And what does that mean for us? Does it make you a little more optimistic about the future of politics here in the U.S. of A? We'll talk about that after this. I'm Brian Noonan. This is Daybreak.
I'm Jamie Martinson. It's the Civic Media Network.
Want to join in on the conversation? Call or text 855-75-CIVIC. Now back to Brian and Jamie.
It's 8:35 right now. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We do appreciate it. Hey, we want to talk very quickly before we get into the big news of the weekend in Hungary. It turns out that we do have a chance for some severe weather across the state later today. Maybe some heavy rainfall, maybe some thunderstorms. Depending on where the line ends up, we could see some large hail. We could also see some damaging winds and some isolated tornadoes, too, especially in the northern part of the state, the Green Bay, Wausau, Eau Claire area, also Fond du Lac, Sheboygan, Wisconsin Dells. And again, it's really going to depend on where the line of the front ends up. But be weather aware. That is the moral of today's story. It is definitely warm. It's definitely humid. It definitely feels like it could do a little something out there if it aligns just right. So,
and we're looking at times starting in the evening, like after 6 o'clock through midnight. But again, I love the different models, and I don't the European model or this model or that model, the super model, the Cheryl Teague's model. They're all there's a deep pull.
But anyway, a deep dive there.
They're saying that if the warm front continues, the further north the warm front goes, the less likely it is that, especially the northern parts of the state, will see the storms of that severity. So keep a good thought that the wind just keeps blowing north.
Right. Just for anybody who's a weather nerd, I will tell you that being somebody who does a lot of weather, owning our own weather company on the side, the European model has been very accurate
really?
over the past year or so.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's always one that it's called the Euro, and even when there's storm chases or storm days, even winter weather, that's the one that most weather people, including your meteorologists, your storm chasers, they usually rely on a lot of what the European model tells.
Is it because Europeans are just smarter? I mean, who knows? In this administration, it could be some dude just with his finger putting it's pretty windy. I think
could be.
The wind is coming from the left. What?
I mean, I think there's some truth to that because we have made so many cuts to the National Weather Service, and we don't exactly believe in science, right? In
Well,
some
radars
cases.
are a tool of the devil, Jimmy.
So-
We shouldn't be
so
able to see things that ain't
The
there.
the euro is usually pretty accurate, though. So
right.
if you are a weather nerd like we are in our house, you can pay attention to that.
Unless you are using it as currency, then the euro is dicey. But
That's
yeah,
right.
I always hear about the European model, and then there's like 2 or 3 that they always quote, and
Yeah.
the meteorologists always seem to be trying to decipher which one is which and which is going to be better. And I don't know. Just
It's
tell me, is it going
basically
to rain today?
Usually what I see is like when my husband's forecasting, usually what I see is him look at all the models and then basically come up with the patterns that seem the most similar in all of those models in order for him to make a target or in order to figure out where there might be severe weather. And so it's usually kind of taking a little bit of all of the different models and putting it together to figure out where that common area is.
Well, what I like to do, Jamie, is just take a Sharpie. And then I draw my own kind of area where I think
I
the
was waiting
front
for
is
this.
going to be. You were waiting to see if that was coming out,
I was
Parker.
waiting for this. Yeah.
I don't want to disappoint you, kid. I'll throw in an old hurricane reference for you. I don't know if this is a good thing for us or just a good thing for the people of Hungary. But you may have heard Parker was shouting it out from the top of his lungs at the baseball game yesterday when news came out that Viktor Orbán had not only lost, but he actually conceded.
Mm-hmm.
He did something we haven't seen here. Well, on the Republican side for a while, we see it with reasonable candidates who just say, oh, yeah, I lost. Okay, disappointing, but I lost. Well, Hungarian voters ousted long-serving Prime Minister Viktor Orbán. He was in office for 16 years. His authoritarian policies and global far-right movement has been the talk of not only Europe, but the world. And as you know, J.D. Vance was over there stumping for him. He has big support, not only from our president, but from Vladimir Putin. Well, now he is out. A pro-European challenger won in a very unexpected result because, authoritarians don't usually leave power. But
Right.
he did concede defeat after what he called a painful election result. J.D. Vance was there last week. Oh, he couldn't have been talking higher. And I don't know, maybe Hungarian voters were like, we don't like Orbán. We really don't like Trump and Vance.
Yeah.
So if these two are together, and we've seen how this goes. So Peter Magyar, a former Orbán loyalist, campaigned against corruption and on everyday issues like healthcare and public transportation, which seems like a novel approach, right? You just campaign on things that people really care about, that really
Right.
affect them. He pledged to rebuild Hungary's relationships with the European Union and NATO. His victory was expected to transform political dynamics within the EU, where Orbán had upended the bloc by frequently vetoing key decisions, prompting concerns he's thought to break it up from the inside. Does that sound familiar at all?
A little bit of the same playbook.
Everything that Orbán did was being aped by Donald Trump. All you have to do is go through all the policies that Orbán put in, and then not only see the fact that for some reason we sent our vice president over there to campaign for this guy. The parallels were shocking.
Yeah.
Shocking. So you look at this and you say, okay, look, a country can reject authoritarianism. Elections can work. At this point, there's nothing that says Orbán's concession is fraudulent. There doesn't seem to be anything that's saying he's going to fight to stay in power. So I guess the question is, if it's good enough for Hungary, can we do it here? Does it make you a little more optimistic, Jamie, about what could happen in 3 years? And you too at 855-75-CIVIC. Drop us a line. Give us a call.
I think it has to, right? 16 years Orbán was in power.
Yeah.
16 years they ran this authoritarian government where Vladimir Putin very much had his pulse on everything that was happening in Hungary because of the ties that he had with Viktor Orbán. And I think if you're somebody who watches, and let's be clear, I think too, there's always been question about the authenticity of the results of Hungary's votes, right?
Yes.
I mean, because there is so much speculation on the relationship between Orbán and Vladimir Putin. So if you're somebody who watches those things and you're concerned about those types of issues here in the United States, I think this does have to give you a little bit of levity. I think it has to at least perk up an eye or an eyeball just a little bit, because this wasn't a small feat to get Viktor Orbán out of office.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't. It was not a small feat. And the people of Hungary, I feel like, deserve this moment. I feel like they actually did the right thing. There's been protests in Hungary over the last few months, over the last few years, really, under Orbán for different reasons. But at the same time, I think that if you're one of those people who truly believes in a democratic election process, you should be very excited about what this could mean for our elections, for our administration in the coming months/years.
The difference is, and I didn't follow Orbán's campaign that closely. The difference that I see, obviously, is that he conceded. That will never be the case here.
This is true.
There weren't reports that Orbán had been laying the foundation for the fake narrative of elections being stolen for years ahead of time, like Trump did in 2020, like he's still doing now. So in that respect, I'm not as optimistic. In the respect of people standing up for what they believe in, actually turning 80% voter turnout. There's the lesson right there. If you want things to change, America, we have to all get out and vote. There's no sitting out. I bet there were not a lot of votes for alternative candidates over there. I bet there was no Jill Stein. I bet there was no Ralph Nader. I bet it was Orbán and Magyar, and that was it. And people showed up.
Well, they also did it on a Sunday.
Yeah. Oh,
right?
I would be for that too. And make it a Saturday. Let's do well, my kid has softball. I don't care. Drop your kid at the field and then go vote and come back and get the last innings. Yeah. Your kid's not going to the major leagues. And if he is, good for him.
I mean,
or her.
And I think that's a bigger discussion about the election infrastructure, and we've talked about it on this program. The election infrastructure in Europe and the rules that they have are so much different than here in the United States. We could actually benefit from installing a couple of the things they do in Europe into the U.S. model. And hello, no electoral
Siestas,
college.
I would like that.
No electoral college, another one that would be kind of neat to see evaporate into thin air at some point.
Are we going to start? We're going to start debating the electoral college this far ahead. All right, I'm down. I mean, okay.
The electoral college, I'll be honest, there are certain things in government that I've never understood. Term limits, not having them, something I've never understood.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
And then the electoral college right up there, and why the Supreme Court can't be expanded to 15, not because I believe there should be an advantage. There's 15 districts now. When the Supreme Court was originally, conceived at some point in time, there were only 9 districts. So you had 9 justices.
You just want to pack the court.
Now they all represent multiple districts when you could have one person. Anyway, it's a thing. These are the 3 things in government I will forever never understand.
But I do like, back to your other point about the election being on a Sunday there. We could easily make it, even if you left it on the first Tuesday after the 5th Monday of the 9th month of however the formulas worked out, you could make that day a holiday.
Yeah.
You could make it a half day, and employers would have to honor at least part of it. Now, do you need the whole day off to go vote? Probably not. But everybody should have, it's like with jury duty, your employer has to give you the time to serve jury duty.
Yes.
I will contend that voting is more important than jury duty.
Yes, agreed.
So then you install that or move it to a weekend. Who cares?
Yes. What I always love is these companies who get major applause and kudos for making this announcement that they're going to give their employees time off to go vote. Really? Okay.
Gee, thanks.
That's their civic duty. You should be. It's the least you could possibly do. I don't know why you need some sort of cookie or gold star for that.
We are not going to make as much profit that day, Jamie. What if, what if you're supposed to work and you're supposed to enter data or whatever it is you do for your job and you're not there? How will the company survive one day?
Yeah.
I just look at all the places that used to be closed on Christmas that are now open on Christmas because we can't,
right.
Because we can't, God forbid, we have a day off from everybody having to work.
I think that's part of the difference between the U.S. and Europe, right? There is a healthier work-life balance in Europe versus here in the United States. They do cherish those times when you have off. They are strict with their schedules about those things. They take vacation. They do close down at certain points for certain national celebrations. In the United States, we don't have that much. We don't do those things anymore.
We got to get up and grind, Jamie. The grind is real. Every day I'm hustling. We got to be out there making that paper, getting that bag, right, Parker? You got to make that bag.
Well, now you know, and now you know why we ended up in the situation that we ended up in, right? Politically. Because that's the mindset.
So I've never said this before. Let's take a lesson from Hungary. There we go. I know, it's weird, right?
Shocking,
all right, Frank.
Actually.
Frank is positing a question, so I want Frank to join us on this because he put this question in. It's very open-ended. What's something you used to be able to do but can't do now? There's I don't know why he posited this, but we'll find out after this. It's Daybreak, and this is the Civic Media Network.
Fairly solid and better than expected. It's Daybreak with Brian and Jamie.
It's 8:52 right now. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. It must be really warm out because I'm watching people here in Madison who obviously left their house this morning thinking that it was still going to be like 20 degrees, who now have coats wrapped around their waist. They've got them slung over their shoulders. They're like shedding layers as they're walking across the street. So if you haven't been outside already this morning, it's not cold.
No.
So make sure you check
Friends,
the forecast,
it's not cold.
okay?
Be careful. Yeah, it's one of those days where you want to bring something because there's also that possibility that maybe that cold, rainy, or that when it's really humid but it's still cold.
Yeah.
And it's only 65, no, only, I shouldn't say that, 63 in Madison now, which is pretty good. But it's going to get into the 70s. But everybody was pretending they were a scout today and was prepared for the elements.
Very, very humid out, though, this morning. So it is feeling quite a bit warmer than 63 degrees. So dress accordingly, folks. Check the forecast before you
Shorts
leave
and
the
crop
house
tops, everybody. It's that season. All right. Now, listen, Frank, our executive producer, Frank, he comes in and he hosts Swipe or Stay every day. And does a very good job of that. And he finds some sports stories. But he had a beef, and he posited a question. And so as I was looking everything over, I was like, why is this important to Frank? Why is he worked up? So, Frank, why are you worked up?
So I have issue with the premise of the story in
All
general.
right.
So here's the deal. The Milwaukee Marathon took place this past weekend.
Yes,
right?
I saw groups of cow ladies running around.
Right. Has anybody...
Not overweight women. Women dressed
Has anybody ran a marathon on this show? I'm going to assume no.
5K is the most.
Hard no, right? 5K.
Correct.
I wouldn't even do that because running sucks. But anyway.
Running does suck.
So
running's the worst.
here's the headline. It says, Hobby Jogger sets PR and fastest time at 2026 Wisconsin Marathon. And I'm like,
PR
whoa.
personal record?
Yeah, like he's a financial analyst. And I was like, wow, good for this guy.
Him.
Yeah, human interest story.
That takes a lot of dedication.
Yeah.
If you read the fine print.
Wait a minute. You read past the headline?
I did. Just for you
that's your
guys.
mistake.
I wouldn't do that for anybody else.
Thank you.
That's your mistake, though.
David Vannucci is a 3-time high school state champ distance runner. And was a Big Ten long distance runner for the University of Wisconsin. Now, I don't know about you guys, but nothing about that says hobby jogger. This is his quote. I'm not going to blame the writer of the article because this is his quote. To be honest, I haven't really kept up with running as much as I should. I describe myself as a hobby jogger these days.
That's his words.
I'm definitely not in the same shape I was back in college.
How old is this guy?
24.
Oh, well, he's been out of college a whole whopping 3 years.
Parker, I'm calling on you to punch him in
Regardless.
the throat. This is not the same shape I was in
Guys,
college.
I
This
am
is
not in shape.
this
like
is-
I
If
used
he
to
was
be.
70, then you use that excuse.
Right.
If he
Like,
was 40,
shut
use that
up.
excuse.
You are not 38 years old.
No.
At the office, financial, and he goes on to say, like, I got in good shape for the past 2 months. People are training year in and year out to even finish the marathon.
How horrible would your life have to have been if you graduated as a collegiate runner a couple years ago and now you were so out of shape that
right?
you couldn't run?
Like, he just decided on a whim, you know what? I think I'll run the marathon. Oh, I won this. It wasn't that hard, guys.
It's not that hard.
Yeah, this is how you get punched. But anyway, I was thinking about this. But anyway, real talk.
Yes.
Congratulations, buddy. But
Yeah.
you're not a hobby jogger.
Yeah,
you are
let's- no,
basically
come
a
on.
if people got paid millions of dollars for being a long distance runner, you'd be in the conversation.
Yeah, and I
Anyway.
wouldn't liken you to some Kenyan, but I also don't think you're some hobby runner who's
No.
been,
No,
like you
you're
said,
not
Frank,
just some
joining
ho-hum
the training
financial
club.
analyst.
Yeah,
No. But I was thinking about this.
finance bro.
On a smaller scale, what's that thing that you used to be able to do that you just can't do anymore? Maybe it's because of age. Maybe it's because you stopped doing it. You could call or text us 855-75-CIVIC or 855-752-4842 or comment online if you're here. And I was like, the best thing I could come up with outside of like playing sports in like a competitive level is like, I can't eat how I used to back in the day. Like when you pulled
Yeah.
up McDonald's dollar menu in high school.
You got
Yeah.
one of everything?
Yeah, and it's like, give me 2 McDoubles, 2 McChickens, and throw in a fry. And that's like a casual Thursday night meal with your friends. I can't
Yeah.
do that anymore without popping like 20 Tums, and I still don't think I'd be able to finish. But I was thinking about it, I was like, that's my equivalent to this guy being a hobby jogger. Oh, I'm a hobby eater
Hobby
now.
jogger.
Hobby jogger.
Is there anything that comes to mind for you guys? What's that
Oh.
thing you just can't do anymore?
Oh.
My
First thing that
bounce back time after when I was on the road, I could drive all night. I could drive for 15 hours straight and then the next day just, have a regular night's sleep and be fine. My recuperative powers are much
Yeah.
less than they used to be. And now I don't spend a lot of nights out late drinking or whatever. But even if I just stay up late, sitting watching a movie, the next day I'm like, oh, I need some sleep. And after, even now, like before, a 7-mile car trip was nothing, like literally nothing.
Yeah.
Now I drive to Pittsburgh to see Molly, and I get to her house and I immediately fall asleep.
You're like, I'm
Mostly
spent.
because the conversation is boring.
I had to think about this one. First thing that came to mind was getting up off the floor without sounding like I was 190.
Oh, that's true too, though. That's a good one. Yeah, getting up off
That's the
floor.
first thing. Yeah.
Wow.
There's a lot of groaning, popping things that happen.
Listen, I just kick a lot of stuff under the couch now. That's for when we move. I don't need to get it now.
That's right.
All right. Well, listen, Frank, thank you for bringing this up.
You're
I'm
welcome.
sorry you got a bee in your bonnet,
I'm still bothered.
but we'll be back tomorrow to air more grievances and share more news. I'm Brian Noonan.
I'm Jamie Martinson. You are listening to Daybreak. It's 8:59. This is the Civic Media Network. Have a great day.